SOT West, coming at you from NTC, Off the Radar.
This is Off the Radar. I'm Captain Weston Rich, an observer coach trainer for the Green Berets at the National Training Center. Welcome to episode 2 of Off the Radar. With us today is Master Sergeant Steve Connor to continue our discussion on why ARSOF units should go to NTC. So you talk about staying informed. What, over the last year and a half plus, have you seen from NTC as in incorporating what's actually happening on battlefields around the world? Like you mentioned Ukraine. What are some things that NTC has incorporated from observations and lessons learned from a real conflict?
All right, I'm gonna pick two, and I'm gonna go very broad. I'd say one, the biggest one would be sustainment operations. I think we saw that really early in the conflict in Ukraine of inability to anticipate logistics requirements, forecast rates of consumption, good convoy operations, security for those and planning of those. I think we saw what a breakdown of that results in, and that's tanks on the side of the road with the crews abandoning them. So for sure, that's something that I know the conventional force stresses, heavily here. And I think, the role that we play in that, in just keeping ourselves alive and, sustained, is something that, definitely flushes out every rotation and the unique challenges of, a non-permissive environment that the AOB and the ODAs and the other teammates in the soft triad have to deal with. I think the other one would be just survivability, the violence of conflict and crisis, and the reality of good effective enemy indirect fire, weapon systems, and the effects they can bring to the battlefield is something that I don't think everyone really considers. More specifically that when it comes to like just overall protection and survivability, the protection piece of just digital force protection and how scary and how quickly evolving that world is. Just us being cognizant of what we look like, and not only physically, but what we look like digitally, what that means, and the various ways we can kind of address that and plan for that, and understand our own equipment and signatures is incredibly valuable. So yeah, if I'm gonna highlight two things, I would say it's definitely sustainment. That's the big one. And then the second one would be, protection, more specifically digital protection, are the two big kind of like big focus areas that I think, I wouldn't say we struggle with, but they're the things that, often end up being the hardest lessons learned for teams coming out here.
I like how you put your OC hat on and answered in doctrine terms using warfighting functions. Sustainment and protection, always good training objectives. So with that, in terms, well, you don't have to use warfighting functions, but like that would be something that we use as OCs to conduct our after action reviews, not evaluations, but reviews and critiques on rotational training units to try and, hold that mirror up so they can self-identify problems and correct them on their own, like the professionals they are. But we do identify shortcomings, and maybe they feel like they failed, maybe they didn't. In your opinion, is there a losing and winning at NTC, and what does success look like for a training unit that comes to NTC?
I don't know if there's losing. I don't know if there's winning. It's one of those things where, I'm trying to remember how I wanted to phrase this. So I got asked a similar question recently. There's no right answer, but there's just definitely wrong ones. I think is how I'd kind of categorize that. I would say if you come here with having taken it seriously before showing up, prepared yourself as best you can, either through individual training events, through group training events, through different planning exercises with internally, and then with other partners that are coming out here, and you validate what worked and what didn't, and you go home and you're able to take that constructive feedback and take a good look in the mirror when you get to home station, and are willing to have an honest conversation, within your formation, and say, okay, hey, this is what we did. These are our sustains, but these are our improves. I think that's success. I would say like failure though is coming out here, and not to dwell on previous parts of this conversation, but being in the wrong headspace or thinking it's going to be something that it's not, and getting frustrated or disenfranchised with issues with the scenario, or not being able to train on certain objectives, not taking advantage of what this place is with all its moving pieces and all the people out here and all the money invested and all the time invested and effort invested. I think failure would probably be something the effect of bypassing this opportunity and ignoring it, or chalking it up as just something on the calendar that we have to do. It's like, at the end of the day, man, no, it's like this is a great opportunity. Take full advantage of it. I never did, like we talked about earlier, never did like a full blown like CTC LISCO scenario. I definitely wish I would have, because it's easy to plan for, because you just get to focus on the mission, prepare for the mission, come out here and execute, which is great. You don't have to worry about ammo forecasts or scheduling ranges and all that stuff. You just come out here and train, which is awesome.
Hey, that's the good news about NTC.
Right, yeah. You don't
we take care of the land and ammo for
yeah, there you go.
You just have to wear the miles gear.
There's the there's your sales pitch. Don't worry, I got your stuff in Rhythmus. So I think, yeah, I wish I would have, for sure. Because again, like it's going to challenge you in so many different facets, and if you come out here and you take advantage of that, then that's you've met the intent of what we're trying to provide, and you're going to be successful no matter what, because you're going to be tested if you're willing to kind of just have that kind of self-reflection when you get back, and you're able to codify some of those things, and be a more cohesive unit for it.
Yeah. To kind of like summarize, I think, correct me if I'm wrong in summarizing your own words, but failure is not accepting this as the training opportunity it is, and having the wrong kind of mindset, and getting wrapped up in the scenarioisms, because as much as we try to smooth everything out, there will be bumps in the road. And then success is testing yourself, pushing yourself to the limit, and realizing you're not going to do everything perfect, and that's okay as long as you learn from it, and that learning continues beyond the AAR of NTC and back at home station and in the future training events that you do. I also like that you mentioned the training opportunity of working with others, not only the conventional force, but we do our best to provide training units with a dedicated partner force, and we have a lot of expertise and knowledge coming in through contractors that participate in the rotations and provide coaching and mentorship throughout the rotation. It's something that almost no other training environment would have, just because of budget constraints and stuff at home station. Yeah. So maybe at PMT you get a couple guys from the language lab come down and pretend to be the country team or something, but you come to NTC and you have various meetings and engagements for all the ARSOF guys to work their various skill sets that they have. Yeah. Leading me to my next question, how does this LISCO environment help prepare an ARSOF unit for their next competition mission that they likely have in the near future?
I'm going to answer that based on feedback I've gotten from recent RTUs that have gone forward after this, and kind of had that opportunity to reflect, and gone forward and done great things, across the pond. This place is going to flush out what works and what doesn't. And I think that ability to synchronize, whether it's an AOB staff or even at the tactical team level, of everyone's role and responsibility, whether it's in that tactical setting or it's in a staff setting, better appreciation of just being able to navigate through the warfighting functions is hugely beneficial, because a staff is a staff is a staff. You understanding like your role in that staff is incredibly important. And it can be tricky at times, and I'm going to pick on AOBs for a second, but Oftentimes what you'll see is, you might have, a junior Bravo or a junior Delta, not to pick on those MOSs, but these are just examples. No one bite my head off, but, coming to the AOB and it's like, okay, now you are responsible for sustainment or you're responsible for protection. It's like, there's a lot that goes into that. But again, this place offers an opportunity for you to better understand that role and responsibility so that when you find yourself, whether it's a competition, type environment or not, you have a better understanding of where you fit into that piece of the staff function pie. And you're able to communicate those things more effectively across the staff. So I think that staff interoperability internally that's fleshed out here is something that I know for at least AOBs that they carry forward when they really, especially when they crush it out here and they get it right and they validate those things. But those are the things for sure. I think at least at the AOB level that get fleshed out here and that they're able to take forward, not just in garrison, but more importantly, in those competition spaces downrange. And I think for the teams, to go back to my cephalic analogy earlier, when they take the tactical problem set seriously and they're forced to go through hasty planning, they're forced to go through different their pace plans, and they're forced to really figure out how they're going to do information sharing with the AOB, and they massage through all those things. Like those are still proficiencies in the warfighting functions. They may not call them that, that's something that vernacular in and of itself is something that software's starting to, realize and appreciate, but you're still doing things and making efforts to be overall a more proficient unit or maneuver element. So those things they take forward and prepares them regardless of the setting. So I think that's the advantage that I see talking to, team sergeants that have come out here, detachment commanders that have come out here, AOB leaders who have come out here, is like, proficiency is proficiency that may not fit perfectly into the form factor of what you have on the horizon coming up, but it definitely plays into an advantage or at least a state of readiness for what you have coming up.
So you've mentioned a lot of things about staff function planning, kind of mission command-esque things the whole time throughout this conversation. Do you think NTC is a good place for companies and teams to practice that? Do you think it's more valuable than things that they can do at home station or a CPX?
Yeah, I would still stress like doing things like CPXs are important before and after. I think it's a perishable skill, especially with turnover. We'll pick on AOBs, but turnover at the AOB, not everyone's going to stay at the AOB probably longer than a year to two. So I think continually testing and evaluating those things is important so they don't atrophy. But yeah, I would say for sure, like when it comes to that staff functionality at the AOB level, like coming out here and testing those things does provide a level of that proficiency that I don't think you're going to find anywhere else. And the advantage to that is that, again, like you're getting that feedback here either from the scenario itself as it punches you in the face as you make mistakes, but also like as you figure out what does work, you're codifying those things either at the individual user level or at as a staff. You're like, okay, hey man, this worked, let's get this down, or this didn't work, let's revisit this in our internal AR, the AR feedback from the OCs. So I think you're going to come out of here with an understanding of what didn't work and what does work or what we need to work on. So that there is a kind of onus on the units to continue to develop that and flesh those things out when they get back home. But coming out here for sure, you're going to get an opportunity to test and figure out like, okay, this was a PowerPoint, or we had this on a computer. Now we have it on analog. This is like our SOP for how we're going to communicate this thing or communicate that thing, or this is how we're going to information share this thing, or this is what this rhythm looks like for how we're going to get through this problem set. Like those are all things you're going to codify out here, and you're going to have opportunities to kind of play with and figure out again what does and doesn't work. So I'd say that for sure is an advantage of coming out here and being able to find that that limit of advance of what does and doesn't work and how to fix it.
Yeah, you mentioned turnover rates across SOF. Definitely a issue across the entire force, whether you're conventional or not. And you were talking about doctrine before, and just more recently talking about SOPs. That's kind of like doctrine's the backbone of how we do things, and then SOPs is more at the unit level, how they attack a certain problem. Kind of had a thought about, well, doctrine is how we across the force describe and understand each other, and then SOPs is how you kind of overcome that turnover rate in your unit. I don't know if that's something you'd agree with or not, but
I do, yeah, for sure.
I think it's something that units, especially units when I was a detachment commander, we had some old written down SOPs, and I never made our guys update it. It was always on the back burner. We did some small unit tactics training and said, okay, this is how we're going to cross a linear danger area. And then writing it down and having it, codified was forgotten about because we went on to the next thing. I don't know if that's something when you were a team sergeant, if you were like enforced or not, but
I was a huge SOP book guy.
Yeah?
I was a huge SOP book guy.
Did you make your soldiers study it and then have
the
it
new
test?
guy? Yeah, the new guy. I mean, that's who's the SOP book for? The SOP book's for the new guy. No, but the SOP book it should be the backbone of, I think, a good ODA, right? Because I mean, every time we go to the range or we go to the training area or we go in a concept like that, SOP book is coming with us. We're going to whip that thing out, even if it is just sitting around, a kitchen table, with a beer and being like, all right, let's revisit this thing. And it should be something that evolves and changes with, either the task and purpose for the team or, shift in mission set. But I think to your previous point, like that the SOP book is essentially how the team or that maneuver element understands how they deal with different problems. And it's not necessarily something that's written in stone. It's something that's going to change and evolve over time, but it's something that has to be shared and understood across that element. Because if I understand it as one thing and you understand it as another thing, when the balloon goes up and we have a problem, it's like, all right, we make all these fancy plans, but you hit the ground and that plan goes out the window. It's like, what do we fall back on? We fall back on two things: our SOPs and our contingency planning. So if we have those things refined, like we at least have that baseline of survivability or maneuverability and an ability to kind of cohesively as a team or maneuver element deal with the problem set with some measure of unity. So yeah, I stressed it pretty hard as a team sergeant, as you can tell.
Yeah. So write down your SOPs, learn them, make sure the new guy knows them. Come to NTC with a written SOP book, because I haven't seen it yet, at the detachment level.
Or just bring the Ranger handbook.
Yes, or bring that and actually know where things are located inside of it. Chapter 2 is your best friend.
There you go.
That'd be TLPs and op orders.
Yeah.
And I think in your long-winded answer earlier, I think you skipped over one part of my question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
When you are a company sergeant major, are you going to try and come back here to train as the RTU?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I want to. I feel like, and some of the guys that work out here, they tease me. They're like, you're going to come back here, and the second you show up in scenario, we're going to have to kill you off, which I take as a compliment. No, I want to come back because I appreciate.
I would if I was the OC.
Yeah.
First day.
Get that guy.
You're dead for
Make sure
3
his
days.
miles is turned on. No, absolutely. No, I definitely want to
See how Steve's SOPs hold up then.
Yeah, where's his SOP book? No, absolutely. Like I don't know if you're ever going to find another place that's going to challenge as many people at one given time, and force them to kind of work through problem sets together. And again, not to beat up on it, but it gives you an opportunity to kind of ready your force for a pretty big problem set or series of problem sets. And not only you're fleshing out like your competence, those things, but you're also going to, come out of here with a lot of things that you need to prioritize and kind of shape your forward moving or your forward looking training plan. And then you'll validate things that, you're like, okay, I think this is going to work. And you'll be like, okay, yeah, they worked. Which is good. It's good to have positive feedback and reinforcement sometimes. So yeah, no, I think absolutely I would want to come back out here, and I'm not planning to come back out here, but I absolutely would.
Well, when do you take a company? Do you know? You got the Sergeant Major Academy still.
Fall time, yeah, coming up. See, I got to finish out the academy.
Okay.
Yeah, I start resident phase here in about a month. So.
Well, we'll be looking out for you because I'm going to be here for another year, as you know. I'll come out of the plans office and OC it again. Just pull you aside and be like, hey, you can't talk for 2 hours. So
Silencio, yeah.
So with that, there's no other training environment that has this dynamic, challenging, and near real-world experience as the National Training Center. And Steve can chime in if he disagrees with that.
No, I agree.
But to recap, ARSOF at the National Training Center is going to be exposed to multi-domain operations, emphasizing space and cyberspace as our near-term objectives, trying to get that to the tactical and operational level. You'll get a chance to work with enablers from the ARSOF tribes and across space, cyberspace, and the conventional force as well. Get to fight against a free-thinking and reactive opposing force of a roughly brigade-size element where you won't ever see that anywhere else across the Army. You'll get to work by, with, and through a partner force. Understanding that you're conducting large-scale operations doesn't mean you have to throw away your UW knowledge and expertise. Bring that. It provides value to your unit and the conventional force as well. And just be ready to have an austere training environment where you're going to have to suck up whether it's the cold of winter or the heat of summer. It does rain and snow out in the desert, as we've seen in this last week. Mm-hmm. And I'll turn it over to Steve for his final thoughts.
There's a lot of resources out there within USASOC. I would challenge you, if you get put on the calendar to come out here, start reaching out immediately. The team out here is you are their priority. You coming out here and having a good experience and a good opportunity to maximize the opportunities to train and learn. That's you are our focus. So I would encourage you to reach out. I'd encourage you to ask questions. I would encourage you to take it seriously. Find opportunities to ready your unit and prepare for it. There's you're not the first ones coming out here, so there's a wealth of knowledge in terms of lessons learned and trends. I'd encourage you to read through those, but I also encourage you to come out here with a positive mindset and not be afraid to experiment and try new things. There's going to be a lot that's going to get thrown at you throughout the evolution of the exercise. Failure is not really a thing out here, but I wouldn't come into this, blowing off the idea that, there are better ways of doing things, and there are, there's also wrong ways of doing things. I'll say it that way. So come out here, experiment with those things, try those things. Come out here with a good attitude. Realize it's not going to be perfect, but it is probably the most perfect training environment that the Army has to offer. So take advantage of that. And challenge your force to learn while they're out here, and be making good mental notes the entire time you're out here, or written notes, and be receptive to that feedback, and don't be afraid to ask questions when this thing all wraps up, and reach out and communicate those to the rest of your formation when you return, and share the knowledge, because not everybody gets to come out here. Like I said, I didn't come out here, and I wish I would have. And if I do come out here, I'll take full advantage of it. So challenge you to do that. So, yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you, Steve. And please reach out. Master Sergeant Connor's going to be PCSing soon, but the rest of Burro Team is willing and ready to respond and help you prepare for your upcoming rotation. In the next episode, we're going to take a deeper look at Special Forces companies and detachments and their roles and responsibilities in LISCO, and how the National Training Center gets after training those duties and responsibilities and integrating special operations with the conventional force. Thank you for listening to Off the Radar, where ARSOF prepares for conflict.
You have been Off the Radar with Sandy West.